Fog hung thick over the rural village like a blanket, muffling every sound and blurring every shape. The sun hadn't yet risen when old Martin took his usual morning walk with Ranger, his grizzled golden retriever, along the edge of the forest. Road. Ranger, who rarely reacted to anything with more than a slow wag of his tail, froze. His hackles rose. Martin followed the dog's line of sight and dropped his coffee thermos. There, at the bend where the forest met the asphalt, sat a full-grown tiger. Its muscles were still, powerful beneath its orange and black coat, but it wasn't attacking. It was sitting silently beside a small boy. The child, no older than 6, was crying. His knees scraped, his face dirty and streaked with tears. The tiger's golden eyes scanned the tree line, protective, possessive. Martin ducked behind a tree, heart thundering in his chest. He fumbled his phone from his pocket, whispering into it as he called emergency services. There's a tiger, and a boy. And the tiger's guarding him. By the time authorities arrived, the tiger hadn't moved. Rangers and wildlife officers stayed back, watching in awe. News vans rolled up, their satellite dishes rising like steel sunflowers. Drones hovered above the forest. Someone snapped a photo, and within an hour, the image had gone viral. A majestic tiger sitting protectively beside a crying boy. The headline exploded across social media. Tiger saves lost boy? Wild speculation followed. Some insisted it was CGI. Others called it divine intervention. Wildlife authorities scrambled for answers while tranquilizer rifles hovered at the ready, their fingers twitching on triggers. But no one dared take the shot. That's when Dr. Sienna Gray arrived. The renowned vet and animal behaviorist stepped out of the SUV in a fitted leather jacket, her expression unreadable beneath sharp cheekbones and tired eyes. She had spent the last few years living quietly, taking on odd wildlife cases. Nothing that drew too much attention. But this wasn't a normal case. The boy, Leo, was brought into the wildlife center, reluctantly. The tiger followed, without resistance, but snarled when separated from the child. Leo didn't speak. He barely moved, curled up on a cot with his arms wrapped tightly around himself. Bruises painted his thin arms, and a healing cut stretched across his temple. Sienna approached the tiger's holding area cautiously, but the tiger didn't lunge, didn't growl. It met her eyes. Something flickered in her memory. Ranger, who had been lying at the corner of the facility, stood up and trotted forward. The moment he saw the tiger, he didn't bark or growl. He walked slowly toward the enclosure and lay down beside it, pressing his nose gently to the chain-link wall. The tiger responded, chuffing softly, almost affectionately. Sienna's brow furrowed. She stepped closer and spotted something around the tiger's thick neck. A collar. Not just any collar. Etched into the worn leather was a series of numbers. TGR 13. That wasn't a wildlife tracking number. She asked the rangers to sweep the forest. What they found changed everything. Deep in the woods, beneath charred trees, and ivy-choked trails, they found the skeletal remains of a burned-down cabin. Inside the wreckage, broken animal crates, tranquilizer darts, and shredded paper files. One document was mostly intact. A journal page, scorched at the edges, but readable. Subject TGR 13 has shown signs of unexpected empathy. The boy might be the key. Sienna stared at the page, hands trembling. She hadn't heard that code in years, not since she walked away from the project she'd once helped design. That night, while Sienna reviewed the documents and Leo slept, with Ranger curled at his feet, the unthinkable happened. The alarms shrieked, security cameras fizzled to static, the lights went out. 3 masked intruders burst into the wildlife center. One carried a tranquilizer rifle, another held a black bag. They weren't after the cash register or medical supplies. They were after Leo and the tiger. Ranger barked furiously and charged. The old dog bit into one intruder's arm, snarling like he was young again. The attacker yelped, knocking over a metal table. The noise startled the tiger, who lunged at the bars of his enclosure, growling so loudly it shook the walls. In the chaos, the intruders fled. One dropped something. A security badge. Sienna picked it up. Her eyes narrowed at the logo and the name beneath it. Echelon Dynamics. The blood drained from her face. Sienna grabbed Leo, shouting for him to hold on tight. With Ranger at her heels and TGR-13 pacing protectively beside them, she shoved open the back exit and bolted into the forest. Behind them, flames licked at the treetops as floodlights cut through the smoke. Gunshots cracked the air. Ranger barked furiously, circling Leo to shield him. TGR-13 stayed close, leading the way with uncanny precision through the thickets and underbrush. They ran. Through fire-lit shadows and tangled branches, through mud and falling ash, they sprinted deeper into the woods. Sienna could hear the drones overhead and the crashing of boots behind them. But they never stopped. Then, the forest turned deadly. They stumbled straight into an ambush. Echelon agents flanking from both sides, closing in like a vice. One of them raised his rifle. Ranger lunged. The old dog threw himself in front of Leo, teeth bared, and took the hit. He hit the ground hard with a whimper, blood darkening his golden fur. Leo screamed. Sienna cried out, scrambling to pull Ranger into her arms as shots rang out again. But then, a roar split the night. TGR-13 flew through the smoke like a comet, his massive form barreling into a military truck and flipping it like it was made of paper. The explosion gave them cover. Sienna dragged Ranger into the underbrush, while TGR-13 fought off the attackers, claws flashing. They fled again, ducking under fallen logs and weaving through stone-studded ravines. Finally, they reached it. A narrow cave carved into the rock, half covered by moss and brambles. Leo had once used it as a hiding place, his secret haven, and the tiger remembered. Inside, it was cool and dark and safe. Ranger lay motionless. Sienna pressed gauze against his wounds, shaking. "Come on, old boy. Stay with me." Leo crawled beside him, sobbing. "Please don't go. Please!" TGR-13 paced, his body trembling. Then he lay beside Ranger, curling around him, licking at his wounds as if willing him to stay alive. Leo hugged Ranger's neck. "Don't leave. You saved me." Tears soaked Ranger's fur. Then something changed. The air shifted. Ranger's breathing steadied. The blood slowed. His body, once limp, began to twitch with life. Sienna's eyes widened. "That's not possible." But she felt it. Like an invisible current flowing between them. Leo's hand on Ranger. Ranger touching the tiger's eyes locked on Leo. It wasn't science anymore. It was connection. Raw and pure. The bond between Leo and TGR-13 wasn't just emotional, it was transformative. Leo looked up, tears on his cheeks. "I don't know how, but I felt him hurting, and I pushed it out." Sienna leaned back, stunned. "Leo, you're not just linked to him. You're amplifying it. You're the one bridging them." All this time, Echelon had tried to enhance empathy in animals, to make them more human, but they had accidentally awakened something in Leo. He was the conduit, the emotional nexus. Somehow the neural experiments hadn't just worked, they had revealed something latent. He could share emotional states, fear, love, healing, and those bonds could ripple across species. That was why TGR-13 had never left him, why Ranger had known to protect him. Leo was the key, not just to the science, but to something greater. Sienna knew what she had to do. The next morning, while Leo slept between his guardians, she hiked out of the woods and uploaded everything. Every document, photo, and video. The tapes of Leo's mother, the journal from the burned cabin, the footage of Echelon's assault. Within hours, the story was everywhere. Secret lab linked to child and animal experiments exposed. Vet heroically saves boy and tiger from rogue scientists. Boy and tiger share mysterious emotional bond. Experts stunned. Public outcry drowned out any attempt Echelon made to silence the truth. Arrests were made. The company was shut down. Former executives vanished or were dragged before international tribunals. Leo, finally safe, was placed under Sienna's care. Not in a lab, but in a home. She never left his side. Neither did Ranger, and TGR-13, he never went back to the wild. The final image that went viral months later captured them on a hill at sunset. Leo, walking with Ranger. His golden coat, thick and full again, no sign of injury. Behind them, the tiger moved with silent power, his tail brushing the grass. A caption read, "Some animals were trained to feel, others were born to love, but one tiger chose to protect." Millions watched, millions cried, and the world never looked at animals or love the same way again. She whispered, almost to herself, "No, not them, not again." 10 years earlier, the world was still unaware of what Echelon Dynamics had been doing behind closed doors. Sienna Gray had been one of their brightest minds, an animal behaviorist fascinated by the emotional complexity of mammals. The company had promised her the future: enhanced interspecies communication, empathy-based training models, neurological therapies that could rewrite the boundaries of understanding between animals and humans. The ethics were murky, but the science was revolutionary. Her most memorable subject had been a tiger cub, subject TGR-13. Unlike the others, TGR-13 responded emotionally to humans, especially children. He showed signs of learned empathy, reacting to distress signals, even attempting to comfort his handlers. It was thrilling, then terrifying. The cub began anticipating pain, recoiling before tests began. Then one day, he refused to eat. He howled, all night. The last time she saw him, he was tranquilized on a cold metal table after lashing out when a child cried nearby. The next day, the project was shut down. The facility allegedly caught fire. Sienna left in shame, believing he hadn't survived, but he had. Back in the present, DNA scans confirmed what Sienna feared. The tiger who had found Leo, the one protecting him with feral loyalty, was TGR-13. Somehow the cub had escaped, grown up in the wild, and miraculously sought out Leo. Ranger's behavior confirmed it. 2. He hadn't just recognized the tiger, he had known him. Because Ranger had been one of the first dog subjects in the program. He and TGR-13 had trained in parallel trials, early experiments in cross-species empathy. When the program collapsed, Ranger was quietly rehomed. Now the pieces were falling into place. Leo still refused to speak around most adults, but near Ranger and TGR-13, his walls slowly cracked. One quiet morning, while curled between the dog and the tiger like it was the most natural place in the world, Leo whispered to Sienna, "He protected me from the bad men. He told me to run." Sienna froze. "You mean, he showed you?" Leo shook his head. "He said it. I heard it." Sienna couldn't comprehend it. Tigers couldn't speak, but something in her gut told her the boy wasn't lying. Through a combination of expressions, body language, and an unseen link, something more than instinct, TGR-13 had warned Leo, had guided him. Following a silent prompting from the tiger, Leo led them into the woods. They found a narrow path, one only a child might notice, winding into a rocky hollow where a crumbling hunting cabin had been converted into a hidden shelter. Inside were scattered notebooks, half-eaten food packets, and more importantly, an old camera and memory cards wrapped in a scarf. They played the videos that night. Leo's mother appeared on screen, tired, resolute, speaking in a whisper. "If you're seeing this, I've gone too far. They're using children in the experiments, linking them to animals through neural resonance. It's not just about empathy. They're looking for something deeper. My son, Leo, was chosen. I told them no. I ran." Another video showed her, crying, holding Leo. "They'll come for him. Please, if anyone finds this, protect him. Don't let Echelon have him." The final video was almost too dark to see, but the audio was clear. Screams, Leo's, the roar of a tiger. Then silence. Sienna stared at the screen, her fingers clenched white around the edge of the desk. The tiger hadn't just found the boy, by chance. They'd been bonded once, emotionally, neurologically, during the early experiments. When the lab burned and everything fell apart, the boy was taken, abandoned, and the tiger remembered. When Leo ran, TGR-13 found him. They were linked, then came the final blow. That evening, the facility's power was cut again, but not by accident. Black SUVs rolled through the perimeter with military precision. Men in dark suits stepped out, flanked by private security. The lead man flashed a badge. Echelon Dynamics. "We're here for company property," he said. Sienna stepped forward. "They're not your property. The Tiger is a classified prototype. The boy is a compromised subject. Both are ours." The agents moved forward. Leo whimpered and clutched Ranger's fur. TGR-13 stepped between them, shoulders squared, tail low, growling like thunder. The men froze. Ranger, old but defiant, stood beside the Tiger, baring his teeth. "This ends now," Sienna said. "I won't let you take them. Not again." The standoff burned hot and silent in the dark. No one dared take the first step. The night erupted in chaos. The facility's alarms shrieked just seconds before the walls exploded inward. Flashbangs and smoke grenades rolled across the floor. Echelon operatives stormed through the compound with rifles and tranquilizers, shouting orders and barking into radios.